Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Easy English Spark channel. I'm thrilled to have you here with us today. If you're ready to take your English listening and speaking skills to the next level, then you're in the right place. In today's video, we'll be diving into strategies that will not only boost your confidence, but also help you speak more naturally and fluently. We'll be covering essential tips from overcoming challenges, building confidence, to learning vocabulary. In context, all to make your language learning journey smoother and more exciting. So let's get started and light up your path to mastering English. Chapter 1. Introduction to the Journey of Learning English. Welcome to the first chapter of our journey in learning English. Today, I want to talk to you about what learning English really means and why it's not just about memorizing grammar rules or vocabulary words. It's a journey, an experience, one that involves not just learning new words, but also expanding your mind, discovering new cultures, and finding a new way of thinking. When I first started learning English, I had no idea where it would take me. Like many of you, I struggled at the beginning. It wasn't easy to put words together in a way that made sense, and it wasn't always clear if I was making progress. Sometimes I felt like I wasn't moving forward, but looking back now, I realize every little step I took contributed to where I am today. Learning English isn't just about the destination. It's about the experience along the way. There are many moments that will test your patience, moments when you might feel frustrated, like you're stuck, and that's completely normal. But here's the thing. Each of those moments is actually helping you. Every mistake, every new word that you learn every time you try and fail is part of your growth. And that's what this journey is all about. Now, let's talk about what it means to actually learn a language. You see, it's not just about being able to speak fluently or to understand everything you hear on the first try. It's about building your confidence to communicate, to express yourself, and to learn to make yourself understood. It's also about being patient with yourself and understanding that learning takes time. What's really important is to approach this journey with the right mindset. If you think of learning English as just something you have to do or something you're forced to do, it might not be as enjoyable. But if you see it as an exciting opportunity to unlock new doors, new opportunities, and a new way to interact with the world, the whole process becomes more fun. I want you to remember this. Every learner is different. Some of you might pick up English faster than others. Some of you may find it easier to understand, while others might find speaking a bit harder. That's okay. The key is to focus on your progress not someone else's. This is your journey. Everyone has their own pace, their own way of learning, and that's something to celebrate, not compare. And let's not forget, English is not just a language. It's a gateway to understanding so much more. The English language opens doors to a world of opportunities, whether it's traveling, connecting with people from different cultures, accessing resources, or even growing your career. So, as you dive into this journey, think about how learning English will enrich your life in ways that go beyond just speaking another language. In the next chapters, we'll talk about specific ways to improve your English, handle mistakes, and remember new words more effectively. But first, I want to leave you with this. Learning English is not a race. It's not about finishing quickly. It's about how you approach the process. You don't have to be perfect right away. What matters is that you keep moving forward, one step at a time, and enjoy the journey. So, take a deep breath, smile, and know that every time you learn a new word, a new sentence, or make progress, you're not just learning a language, you're building confidence, opening doors, and unlocking new possibilities. Let's take this first step together and enjoy the ride. Welcome to the journey of learning English. Let's begin. Chapter 2: The Fear of Making Mistakes. In this chapter, we're going to talk about something that I know a lot of you struggle with when learning English: the fear of making mistakes. It's something that we all experience at some point, and it can be really discouraging, especially when you're trying your best to improve. But here's the truth. Making mistakes is not something to be afraid of. In fact, it's one of the most important parts of learning a new language. And in this chapter, I'm going to explain why. Let me start by telling you a story from my own experience. A few years ago, when I was learning English, I was terrified of making mistakes. I would sit in a class, afraid to speak up, afraid that if I said something wrong, everyone would notice. I would rehearse in my head what I wanted to say, thinking about every word carefully to avoid mistakes. But no matter how much I prepared, I would still end up making errors. And each time I did, I'd feel embarrassed and discouraged. I'm sure some of you can relate to this feeling. But let me tell you something that I wish someone had told me when I was starting out. Making mistakes is a normal part of the process. It's not something to be ashamed of. In fact, it's a sign that you're learning. Think about it. When you were a child learning your first language, did you worry about making mistakes? Of course not. You didn't care about being perfect. You just wanted to communicate, to express yourself, to tell the world what you were thinking. And that's exactly how you should approach learning English. In a classroom I once taught, one of my students, Selena, raised her hand. She looked a little nervous and said, "I really want to practice speaking English with others, but I'm afraid I'll make mistakes. I don't want to sound stupid. What should I do?" I smiled at her and said, "That's such a great question, Selena. I totally understand how you feel. The fear of making mistakes is something that everyone experiences, even the most advanced English speakers. But I'll tell you this, if you're afraid of making mistakes, you're missing out on one of the most important parts of learning. Mistakes are where the magic happens." I went on to explain that, just like when you were a child learning to speak your first language, you didn't focus on perfection. You were learning through trial and error. Every time you made a mistake, you were getting closer to mastering the language. And that's exactly what will happen with English. Every mistake is a chance for you to learn and improve. You might be thinking, "But why should I make mistakes? Doesn't that mean I'm failing?" And to that, I would say no. Making mistakes doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're growing. It means you're trying, and trying is the key to success. You see, learning anything new, whether it's a language, a skill, or even a sport, always involves mistakes. It's how you learn what works and what doesn't. Let me give you another example. Think about learning to ride a bike. When you first start, you're wobbly. You might fall a few times, but that doesn't mean you should give up. Every fall is a lesson in balance. Every time you get up and try again, you're improving. And before long, you're riding smoothly without thinking twice about it. The same principle applies to learning English. The more you practice and make mistakes, the better you'll get. In fact, one of the best ways to learn English is to embrace the mistakes you make along the way. Instead of being afraid of making errors, celebrate them. Why? Because when you make a mistake and correct it, you remember that word or rule for longer. Your brain is actually strengthening the connection between the new language and what you've learned. So each time you make a mistake, you're building a stronger foundation for your English skills. I want to share a little story about a famous figure who has made a lot of mistakes throughout his career. Have you heard of the writer J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter series? Before she became one of the richest women in the world, she faced many challenges. In fact, she was rejected by 12 different publishers before someone finally accepted her first book. Imagine that. 12 failures before she succeeded. Yet, instead of giving up, she kept going. She made mistakes, learned from them, and ultimately became a success. Her story is proof that mistakes are part of the journey and they don't define you. Now, let's take a step back and think about your own learning process. What happens when you make a mistake? Do you feel embarrassed? Do you worry that people will think you're not good enough? Well, I want to tell you something. Mistakes are not a sign of failure. They're actually a sign of effort. They're proof that you're trying, and that's what matters most. Think about famous public speakers or politicians. Have you ever watched a speech on TV and noticed that they made a mistake? Maybe they stumbled over a word or said something that didn't make sense. But did they stop? No, they kept going. Why? Because their message was more important than their mistake. They understood that their ideas mattered more than being perfect. You see, the more we focus on trying to be perfect, the more we limit ourselves. The fear of making mistakes holds us back from actually using the language. And when we're too scared to speak or write because we don't want to make a mistake, we miss out on valuable opportunities to practice and grow. I'm going to say this again because it's so important. Mistakes are part of the learning process. Without them, we wouldn't know what to improve. So, instead of avoiding mistakes, embrace them. They're not something to fear. They're something to celebrate. Each mistake is a step closer to fluency. To wrap up this chapter, I want you to take a moment and think about the times when you've made mistakes in your language learning journey. Maybe it was a pronunciation error, a grammar mistake, or a word you didn't quite understand. Now, instead of feeling embarrassed or discouraged, recognize that those moments were opportunities to grow. You learned something from them, didn't you? And that's exactly what this journey is all about. So, as we continue on this journey of learning English, remember this: don't be afraid of mistakes. Welcome them, learn from them, and keep moving forward. Because every mistake you make brings you one step closer to becoming the English speaker you want to be. In the next chapter, we'll talk about how to overcome the fear of making mistakes and how to build confidence in speaking. I'll share more tips and stories on how to stay motivated and keep progressing, no matter how many mistakes you make along the way. So, let's move on and embrace the next step in this amazing journey. Chapter 3: Mistakes as Stepping Stones. Welcome back. In this chapter, we're going to dive into a concept that will completely change how you look at mistakes. Mistakes as stepping stones. If you've ever felt discouraged after making a mistake, or if you've ever considered giving up because you didn't get something right the first time, this chapter is for you. Mistakes are not obstacles. They are, in fact, one of the most powerful tools you have in your journey of learning English. But before we dive into why mistakes are so valuable, let's first take a step back and understand what happens when you make a mistake. Have you ever tried learning a new skill, like playing a musical instrument, cooking, or even driving a car? In the beginning, it's always a little messy, right? The music sounds off-key, the cake burns in the oven, and the first few attempts behind the wheel might make you wish you were back on the couch. But guess what? With each mistake, you get closer to mastering the skill. The same applies to learning English. In the early stages, it's completely normal to make mistakes. Your brain is trying to process new information, and the best way for it to solidify those new connections is through trial and error. Every mistake teaches you something new about the language and about yourself. It's through making mistakes that you begin to understand what works and what doesn't. Each error is like a lesson in disguise, guiding you towards improvement. Let me give you an example. A while ago, I had a student named Alex who was learning to speak English. Alex was very bright and hardworking, but he had one problem. He was terrified of making mistakes. He would hesitate every time he had to speak, worrying that he would say something wrong. This fear held him back from fully participating in class, and even though he understood the material, his speaking skills weren't improving. One day, after another class where Alex didn't speak much, I sat down with him and said, "Alex, I can see you're holding yourself back because you're afraid of mistakes. But I want you to understand something very important. The only way you'll improve is if you make mistakes and learn from them. Don't worry about being perfect. Focus on progress." Alex was still unsure, but I gave him a simple challenge. For the next week, I want you to speak up in class as much as possible. Don't worry about whether you make a mistake. Just speak. And so, Alex did. He made mistakes. A lot of them. But do you know what happened? His confidence began to grow. With every mistake, he learned something new. He learned that even when he said the wrong word, people still understood him. He learned that making mistakes was completely normal, and most importantly, he learned that each mistake brought him closer to becoming a better speaker. I want you to think about your own mistakes for a moment. Perhaps you've been in a situation where you were afraid to speak because you might get the pronunciation wrong or say the wrong thing. Maybe you've avoided writing essays or speaking in English because you fear making errors. But here's the key. If you never make mistakes, you'll never learn. You'll stay in your comfort zone and you won't progress. Think about when you were a child learning to walk. How many times did you fall before you could stand up and walk without holding on to anything? You didn't give up, did you? No. Every fall was just a part of the process. You learned what to do and what not to do, and in the end, you walked confidently. It's the same with English. Every time you try to say something, whether it's in a conversation or in writing, you're learning something important. Maybe you'll misplace a word, or maybe you'll forget a grammar rule. But that mistake is a stepping stone, not a setback. It's part of the process of building fluency. Let me share another example. A few years ago, I tried learning Spanish. At first, I made a lot of mistakes, especially with verb conjugations. I'd say, yo hablo, I speak, when I meant yo comí, I ate. I'd mix up past and present tenses, and sometimes I'd get so confused that I would forget entire sentences. But instead of feeling frustrated, I embraced those mistakes. I took note of them, corrected them, and kept practicing. Slowly, those mistakes started to become less frequent. And over time, I could see myself getting better. So, what's the takeaway from these examples? Mistakes are your best teachers. They provide you with real, practical learning experiences. Every time you make a mistake, you're not failing. You're learning. You're finding the path that works for you. And that's what this journey is all about. Now, let's talk about how to turn those mistakes into stepping stones. The first step is to change your mindset. Instead of looking at mistakes as failures, see them as opportunities. Every mistake you make in English is an opportunity to learn. It's a chance to improve your grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, or even your confidence. Mistakes help you understand where you are and show you where you need to focus next. Another way to use your mistakes as stepping stones is to reflect on them. After you make a mistake, take a moment to think about what went wrong. Why did you say the wrong word? Why didn't you use the correct grammar? Was it because you didn't practice enough or because you misunderstood the rule? This reflection will help you pinpoint areas where you need to focus your energy. For example, if you constantly mix up the present tense and the past tense, ask yourself why that happens. Is it because you haven't practiced enough with those tenses? Is it because you're trying to speak too fast? By identifying the reason behind your mistakes, you can target the issue and work on improving it. One great technique I recommend for this is journaling. After each day of practice or class, write down the mistakes you made and what you learned from them. Reflect on how you can avoid those mistakes in the future. Over time, you'll notice patterns in your mistakes, and this will help you focus your practice more effectively. But here's the most important point. Don't be too hard on yourself. Mistakes are not signs of weakness. They're signs of effort. You're putting in the work. Every time you make a mistake, you're one step closer to mastering the language. So instead of letting mistakes discourage you, let them inspire you. Let them push you to do better, to work harder, and to keep going. Think about learning English like building a house. Every brick represents a little bit of knowledge. Some bricks may be crooked at first. Maybe the grammar is wrong or the pronunciation is off. But over time, with enough practice, you start to build something strong, something stable. Mistakes are the moments that shape that foundation. They help you put everything in the right place. In conclusion, remember that mistakes are an essential part of learning English. Don't fear them. Embrace them. Use them as stepping stones that will help you climb higher on your language learning journey. Each mistake is a valuable lesson. Keep practicing, keep making mistakes, and most importantly, keep moving forward. Because with every mistake you make, you're building a stronger command of the English language. In the next chapter, we'll talk about how to build your confidence and overcome the fear of speaking, so stay tuned. You've got this. Keep going. Chapter 4: The Importance of Practice and Persistence. Welcome to Chapter 4. By now, you've probably started to realize that learning English is not just about memorizing vocabulary or perfecting grammar rules. It's about consistent practice, determination, and a lot of persistence. In this chapter, we'll dive deep into why practice and persistence are so important in your journey to mastering English, and how you can make these two elements work for you. You see, learning a language is a long-term commitment. It's not something you can achieve overnight. No matter how many resources you use or how many lessons you take, you won't become fluent by simply hoping for it. The key to success is regular practice, and I want you to think about that word, practice, as the foundation of your learning journey. Without it, everything else falls apart. Let's take a moment and think about any skill you've ever learned in life. Perhaps you learned to play an instrument, ride a bicycle, or even cook your favorite meal. How did you get better at it? Was it through one single attempt? Of course not. You practiced. You made mistakes, you tried again, and slowly but surely, you improved. Learning English works the same way. If you want to get better at speaking, listening, reading, or writing, you have to practice. Regular practice helps your brain solidify new connections and ensures that what you learn becomes second nature. I want to share a personal story about my own journey learning a language. A few years ago, I decided to learn Spanish. At first, I was so excited. I knew a few words and phrases, and I thought, this is going to be easy. But after a few weeks, I realized that Spanish wasn't as easy as I had imagined. My vocabulary was limited. I kept confusing verb tenses, and my pronunciation was terrible. I was frustrated. But here's the thing. I didn't give up. Instead of throwing in the towel, I decided to make practice a daily habit. Every single day I practiced my Spanish, whether it was listening to a podcast, speaking with a friend, or watching Spanish TV shows. Slowly, little by little, my skills improved. It wasn't fast, and it wasn't always easy, but each day I could feel myself getting just a little bit better. The key was practice. I practiced every day, and over time, those small efforts added up to big results. This brings me to the second crucial element of learning: persistence. Practice is essential, but persistence is what keeps you going when the going gets tough. There will be days when you feel like you're not improving, when you struggle with pronunciation, or when you don't remember words no matter how hard you try. It's easy to get discouraged during those times, but persistence is what will keep you on track. Think about any successful person you know, whether they're athletes, artists, business owners, or even musicians. Every single one of them has one thing in common: persistence. They didn't get where they are by giving up when things got hard. They kept pushing forward, learning from their mistakes, and practicing consistently, no matter what. And this is the mindset you need to adopt when learning English. One of my students, Sophia, had a great example of persistence in her own learning journey. She started learning English a few years ago, and like many learners, she struggled with speaking. She would practice the vocabulary, understand the grammar rules, and read a lot. But when it came to speaking, she would freeze up. She was afraid of making mistakes, and as a result, avoided speaking in English as much as possible. But after a while, Sophia realized that avoiding speaking wasn't helping her. She knew that the only way to get better was to face her fear. So she made a commitment to practice speaking every single day, even if it was just for 10 minutes. She started with simple conversations, speaking to herself in front of the mirror, then moved on to practicing with a friend. At first, it wasn't easy. She stumbled over words, made grammar mistakes, and felt embarrassed. But she didn't stop. She kept practicing, and with time, her speaking skills improved dramatically. One day she came to class and said, "I can't believe it. I had a conversation in English with a stranger at the coffee shop today. It felt so natural." That moment was a huge milestone for her, and it didn't happen by accident. It happened because she was persistent. She kept practicing, kept pushing through the discomfort, and kept showing up every day to improve. Now let's talk about how you can apply the same principles of practice and persistence to your own English learning. Make practice a daily habit. This is the first step in building momentum. Don't wait for the perfect moment to practice, because that moment will never come. Instead, make it a non-negotiable part of your day. Whether it's speaking with a friend, listening to a English podcast while you commute, reading a chapter of a book, or writing in a journal, find a way to integrate English practice into your everyday life. Even if it's just for 15 minutes a day, this consistency will help you improve faster than sporadic, intense study sessions. Set realistic, achievable goals. Persistence is much easier when you have clear, achievable goals in mind. If your goal is to become fluent in English in a few months, you might feel overwhelmed. Instead, break that big goal down into smaller, more manageable chunks. Start by setting goals like learn 10 new words this week, or practice speaking with a friend for 10 minutes every day. These smaller goals will give you something to work toward and will help you stay motivated. When you achieve these small milestones, you'll build confidence and keep moving forward. Don't fear mistakes. Embrace them as part of the process. As we discussed in the previous chapter, mistakes are inevitable, and they are a sign that you are learning. So don't get discouraged when you make errors. Instead, view them as a natural part of your progress. When you make a mistake, take a moment to reflect on it, understand what went wrong, and then move on. The more you embrace your mistakes, the more confident you will become. Find motivation to keep going. Persistence is fueled by motivation, so it's important to connect your language learning with something that excites you. Whether it's the desire to travel, to communicate with people from different cultures, to understand English films and music, or to advance in your career, find something that drives you. When you have a strong reason for learning English, it becomes easier to practice every day and keep pushing forward even when you face challenges. Keep a positive mindset. Finally, persistence requires a positive attitude. There will be tough days when it feels like you're not improving, but maintaining a positive mindset is key to overcoming those moments. Celebrate the small victories. Recognize that each day of practice is a step forward, even if you don't see immediate results. Over time, those small steps will add up to significant progress. To wrap up, remember that practice and persistence are the keys to your success in learning English. It's not about being perfect right away. It's about showing up every day, making the effort, and continuing to move forward, no matter how difficult it might seem at times. Each practice session is an opportunity to grow, and each day of persistence brings you closer to your goal. So, make practice a part of your daily life. Keep working at it, and most importantly, never give up. In the next chapter, we'll talk about how to stay motivated when you feel like giving up, and how to build the resilience you need to keep going. You're doing great, and the journey has only just begun. Keep practicing, keep persisting, and you'll see the results before you know it. Chapter 5. Understanding and Retaining New Words. Welcome back to Chapter 5. In this chapter, we're going to tackle one of the most important aspects of learning English: understanding and retaining new words. As you continue your journey to becoming fluent, you'll notice that expanding your vocabulary is a crucial part of the process. But learning new words is more than just memorizing a list. It's about really understanding how to use them in conversation and remembering them for the long term. And that's exactly what we're going to focus on today. Let's start with a simple question. How do you learn new words? For many people, the process often begins with looking them up in a dictionary. You see a word, you learn its definition, and maybe you repeat it a few times to remember it. But here's the thing. This method is not always effective in helping you retain that word. After all, how many times have you looked up a word, learned its meaning, and then forgotten it the next time you see it? This happens to everyone. But don't worry, because in this chapter, I'll show you how you can truly understand and retain new words for the long term. Understanding. New words. The first step. When you encounter a new word, the first step is understanding its meaning. But understanding a word is more than just knowing its definition. You need to grasp how it fits into the language, how it's used in different contexts, and what it means in relation to other words. This deeper understanding will help you remember the word more easily. Let's break this down further. Imagine you come across a word like delighted. You may look it up and find out that it means very pleased or happy. But if you stop there, you'll have a basic understanding of the word, but it won't stick with you for long. To truly understand it, you need to think about how it's used in different sentences and situations. For example, I was delighted to receive your invitation. She was absolutely delighted with the surprise party. By seeing the word in different contexts, you start to understand not just the meaning, but the feeling or situation it conveys. Delighted isn't just happy, it's a stronger, more excited kind of happiness. The more you see it used in context, the more you'll remember it, and the better you'll understand when to use it yourself. Retention. The challenge of remembering words. Now that we've covered understanding a new word, let's talk about how to remember it. Retaining vocabulary can be a challenge because our brains tend to forget things unless we actively work to keep them in our memory. So how can you make sure those new words stick with you? Use the word in your own sentences. One of the most effective ways to retain new words is to start using them in your own sentences. Don't just memorize the definition. Put the word into practice. For example, once you understand the meaning of delighted, try to use it in your daily conversations or writing. Try saying things like, "I was delighted when I saw my favorite movie on TV." "He was delighted to meet someone from his home country." This active usage helps your brain connect the word to real-life experiences. You're not just memorizing a word, you're practicing using it in the right context. This is a great way to reinforce what you've learned. Use spaced repetition. Now let's talk about spaced repetition, a method that's been proven to help with memory retention. Instead of trying to cram a bunch of words into your memory in one sitting, spaced repetition involves reviewing the words you've learned at increasing intervals over time. For example, you might review a new word after 1 day, then after 3 days, then after a week, and so on. This system ensures that you revisit the words regularly, which helps your brain encode them into long-term memory. There are apps and tools available, like Anki or Quizlet, that can help you organize your vocabulary review using spaced repetition. Create associations. Another great technique for remembering new words is to create associations. Our brains are great at remembering things that are connected to other memories or experiences. So when you learn a new word, try to link it to something you already know. For example, if you're learning the word gregarious, which means sociable, you could think about your friend who loves to host parties and is always surrounded by people. By creating this association, the word becomes easier to recall when you need it. You can also use visual aids to help create associations. For example, when you learn the word apple, imagine a big, juicy red apple in your mind. The visual image of the fruit can help reinforce the word in your memory. Practice with flashcards. Flashcards are a great tool for learning and retaining new vocabulary. You can write the word on one side of the card and its meaning, pronunciation, and an example sentence on the other. You can use these flashcards to quiz yourself regularly. If you're using spaced repetition, flashcards work even better since you can review the words you struggle with more often. The key is consistency. Use your flashcards every day, even if it's just for a few minutes. Group words by theme or topic. Another powerful technique is grouping words by theme or topic. When you learn words related to a specific theme, they're easier to remember because they're connected. For instance, if you're learning vocabulary related to food, group words like spicy, salty, and sweet together. This way, when you're talking about food, you'll have these words already connected in your mind, making it easier to recall them. Engage in active listening and reading. The more you hear and see words used in context, the easier it is to retain them. That's why listening and reading in English are so important. When you listen to English podcasts, watch TV shows, or read books, pay attention to the words that are used frequently. Try to notice how the words are used in different contexts. The more you see and hear them, the more natural it will feel when you use them in your own speech and writing. Context, the key to retention. One thing to keep in mind when learning new words is that context is key. It's not enough to just understand the definition of a word. You need to understand when and how to use it. Words can have different meanings depending on the situation, and they can convey different emotions or ideas. For example, let's look at the word run. It's a common verb, but it can be used in many different contexts. I'm going to run in the park today. She ran a business for 10 years. This river runs through the city. As you can see, the word run can mean physical movement, managing something, or even flowing. So when you learn new words, try to explore all the different ways the word can be used. This deeper understanding of the word's context will help you remember it better and use it more accurately. Final tips for retaining new words. Don't overload yourself. Learning too many words at once can be overwhelming. Start small. Aim to learn a few new words every day and focus on making them stick before moving on to new ones. Stay consistent. Consistency is crucial in learning new words. Even if you only learn 1 or 2 words a day, keep doing it regularly. Over time, this will add up to a massive vocabulary. Use multiple learning methods. Don't just stick to one way of learning. Combine reading, listening, writing, and speaking. The more ways you engage with new words, the more likely you are to remember them. In conclusion, understanding and retaining new words isn't just about memorizing definitions. It's about actively using them in context, practicing regularly, and making connections to things you already know. The more you practice and interact with new vocabulary, the more naturally it will come to you when you need it. So, Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Keep practicing and let those words become a part of your active vocabulary. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to overcome challenges in pronunciation and improve your speaking confidence. So, keep going and remember, every new word you learn is a step closer to mastering English. Chapter 6: The Key to Listening Comprehension. Welcome to Chapter 6. In this chapter, we're going to explore one of the most important skills in language learning: listening comprehension. If you've been learning English for a while, you might have noticed that understanding spoken English can sometimes be difficult. Whether it's the speed of speech, unfamiliar accents, or just trying to catch every word, listening can feel overwhelming. But don't worry. By the end of this chapter, you'll have a much clearer understanding of how to improve your listening skills and how to use different strategies to make the process easier and more enjoyable. Why listening comprehension matters. Listening comprehension is essential for becoming fluent in any language, and it plays a huge role in your ability to communicate effectively. In everyday life, most of our communication is done through listening and understanding what others are saying. Whether you're having a conversation with a friend, following a podcast, or watching a movie, your ability to understand spoken English directly impacts your ability to respond, make connections, and engage in meaningful conversations. Imagine this scenario. You're at a party and people are talking in English all around you. You want to join the conversation, but every time someone says something, you struggle to understand. This can be frustrating, right? If you can't understand the conversation, it's hard to contribute, and it can even make you feel disconnected. That's why improving your listening comprehension is key. It helps you stay engaged, understand the context of conversations, and feel more confident when speaking. But here's the thing. Improving your listening skills takes time and practice, just like any other skill. It's not something that happens overnight, but with the right strategies and consistent effort, you can make significant progress. Understanding the challenge of listening. Let's start by understanding why listening comprehension can be difficult in the first place. There are several factors that can make it hard to understand spoken English. Speed of speech. Native speakers often talk quickly, which can make it hard for learners to follow along. If you're used to hearing slow, clear speech, fast-paced, conversations might feel like a blur of sounds. Unfamiliar accents. English is spoken in many different countries, and each country has its own unique accent. If you're used to hearing American English, for example, British English or Australian English may sound completely different to you, and understanding these accents can be challenging. Reduced forms. In everyday speech, people don't always pronounce words clearly or fully. They might say gonna instead of going to, wanna instead of want to, or kinda instead of kind of. These informal and contracted forms can make it difficult for learners to understand what's being said. Background noise. Sometimes you might be listening to English in a noisy environment, like a cafe or a crowded room, where background noise makes it hard to focus on what's being said. Lack of context. Without context, understanding spoken language can be much harder. If you don't know the topic of a conversation or the specific vocabulary being used, it's easy to get lost. The key strategies for improving listening comprehension. So, how do we overcome these challenges and improve our listening comprehension? In this section, we'll discuss some effective strategies that will help you understand spoken English more easily and build your listening skills over time. Start with listening at your level. One of the most common mistakes learners make is trying to listen to content that is too difficult. If the language is too advanced, it will be frustrating and you might not understand much of it. Instead, start by listening to material that's suited to your current level of English. This could be listening to beginner or intermediate podcasts, watching TV shows for learners, or listening to simplified news. Once you feel comfortable with materials at your level, gradually increase the difficulty. Over time, your ear will get better at picking up new words and understanding more complex sentence structures. Don't rush. Give yourself time to build up your skills, step by step. 2. Listen for context, not every word. When listening to English, you don't need to understand every single word. In fact, it's often impossible to catch every word, especially when the speaker talks quickly. What you should focus on instead is the context of the conversation. Try to understand the general meaning or the main ideas being communicated. For example, if someone says, "I was really excited about the concert last night, but the sound system wasn't working properly, so it was a bit disappointing." Even if you don't catch every word, you can still understand that the person was excited about the concert but had a problem with the sound. By focusing on the key words and the overall message, you'll gradually get better at understanding spoken English without needing to hear every single word clearly. Use subtitles and transcripts. Subtitles and transcripts are incredibly helpful tools when learning to listen. When watching movies or TV shows, use subtitles in English, not in your native language. This will help you connect the spoken words with their written forms, and seeing the words can make it easier to understand them. You can also find transcripts for many podcasts, interviews, and videos online. When you listen to something, follow along with the transcript. This will help you notice the words you might have missed while listening and give you a clearer understanding of the conversation. Afterward, you can go back and review the difficult sections. Listen regularly and consistently. Like any other skill, listening comprehension improves with regular practice. Make listening a part of your daily routine. Try to listen to something in English every day, even if it's just for a few minutes. Listen to podcasts, watch TV shows, or listen to music. Anything that interests you and is in English. Over time, you'll start noticing patterns in the language, like common phrases, vocabulary, and pronunciation. The more you listen, the better. You'll become at understanding spoken English, even in real-life conversations. Focus on different English accents. Since English is spoken in many different countries, it's important to get used to hearing various accents. You can listen to different English language podcasts, watch shows from different countries, or even find videos with speakers from different regions. This will help you become more adaptable and improve your ability to understand English no matter where it's spoken. For example, if you're used to American English, you might want to try listening to British, Australian, or Canadian English. Each accent has its own nuances, and becoming familiar with these differences will make it easier to understand speakers from different parts of the world. Practice. Active listening. Active listening involves paying close attention to the speaker and engaging with the content. Rather than just passively listening, try to actively process what the speaker is saying. Focus on the meaning, the tone, and the emotions behind the words. You can practice active listening by taking notes while listening. Write down key points or words you don't understand and look them up later. This will keep you engaged with the content and help reinforce what you've learned. 7. Use shadowing techniques. One of the most effective techniques for improving listening comprehension is shadowing. Shadowing involves listening to a short segment of audio or video and repeating what the speaker says as closely as possible, immediately, after they say it. This technique helps you practice pronunciation, intonation, and rhythm, while also improving your ability to understand spoken English. Start with short segments and try to match the speaker's pace, tone, and emphasis. As you improve, you can gradually increase the length of the segments, Challenge yourself with diverse materials. As you become more comfortable with listening, start to challenge yourself with a variety of listening materials. Watch movies or documentaries, listen to radio shows, or even try listening to news broadcasts. Different types of content use different vocabulary and speech patterns, which will help you become a more versatile listener. For example, listening to news broadcasts might teach you more formal language, while watching a comedy show might introduce you to slang and informal speech. This will help you develop a well-rounded understanding of spoken English. Final thoughts on listening comprehension. Listening comprehension is an essential skill for becoming fluent in English, and it requires regular practice and a strategic approach. Start by listening to material that suits your level, and focus on understanding the main ideas, not every word. Use tools like subtitles and transcripts, and practice active listening and shadowing techniques. By consistently applying these strategies, you'll gradually improve your ability to understand spoken English, no matter how fast the speaker talks or what accent they have. Remember, the more you practice listening, the better you'll become. So make listening a part of your daily routine, and you'll start to notice improvements in your ability to understand English in real-life situations. In the next chapter, we'll dive into some practical tips for improving your speaking skills and building confidence in conversations. Keep going. You're doing great. Chapter 7. The Power of Motivation in Language Learning. Welcome to Chapter 7. In this chapter, we're going to explore one of the most important and often overlooked factors in language learning: motivation. If you've been learning English for any length of time, you've probably encountered moments when it feels difficult, frustrating, or even discouraging. It's normal to face challenges, but the difference between someone who gives up and someone who succeeds often comes down to motivation. Motivation is the driving force that will push you through the tough moments and keep you going when things get hard. And in this chapter, we'll explore why motivation is so powerful and how you can use it to fuel your language learning journey. What is motivation? Before we dive into how to harness motivation for language learning, let's first understand what motivation is. Motivation is the reason you take action. It's the inner drive that compels you to achieve your goals. In the context of language learning, motivation is what gets you to open your textbook, listen to podcasts, or practice speaking in English every day. It's what makes you push through the frustration of making mistakes, the fatigue of long study sessions, and the temptation to quit. There are two main types of motivation that affect language learners: intrinsic motivation, This type of motivation comes from within. It's when you're motivated to learn because you enjoy the process, you find the subject interesting, or you feel personally fulfilled by the progress you make. For example, you might love learning English because you enjoy watching English language, movies or reading books in English. Extrinsic motivation. This type of motivation comes from external factors, like rewards or achieving specific outcomes. For example, you might be motivated to learn English because it will help you get a better job, travel to English-speaking countries, or pass an English exam. Both types of motivation are important and can work together to help you achieve your language learning goals. But how can you keep your motivation strong throughout your learning journey, especially when you hit roadblocks? Why motivation is key to success in language learning. Language learning is a marathon, not a sprint. It's a long-term commitment that requires consistent effort and patience. Without motivation, it's easy to lose focus, especially when the initial excitement wears off. This is where motivation becomes your ally. When you're motivated, you're more likely to stay consistent. Motivation helps you commit to studying every day or every week, even when it feels like you're not making progress. Push through challenges. Every language learner faces obstacles, whether it's struggling with grammar, pronunciation, or vocabulary. Motivation helps you persevere and keep going, even when things get tough. Enjoy the learning process. Motivation helps you view learning as an exciting challenge rather than a chore. When you enjoy the process, learning becomes something you look forward to. Set and achieve goals. Motivation provides the drive to set clear goals for your language learning. It pushes you to take action, whether it's achieving a milestone like understanding a TV show in English or passing a language exam. In short, motivation is the fuel that keeps you going when the road gets tough. It's the reason you'll continue learning, even when it feels like you're not progressing as quickly as you'd like. How to keep your motivation strong. Now that we understand why motivation is important, let's talk about how you can keep your motivation strong throughout your language learning journey. Here are several strategies that can help you stay motivated and inspired. Set clear, achievable goals. Setting clear and achievable goals is one of the most powerful ways to stay motivated. When you have specific goals in mind, it's easier to stay focused and measure your progress. Instead of aiming for something vague like, I want to learn English, set specific actionable goals like, I want to learn 10 new vocabulary words every week. I want to have a 5-minute conversation in English by the end of the month. I want to watch an entire movie in English without subtitles within 3 months. These smaller, tangible goals help you feel a sense of accomplishment when you reach them, and they keep you motivated to keep going. Break down your larger goal of becoming fluent in English into smaller steps, and celebrate every achievement along the way. 2. Find your why. Knowing why you want to learn English is a powerful motivator. Your why is your personal reason for wanting to master the language. Maybe you want to travel the world and communicate with people from different cultures. Maybe you want to advance in your career or access more knowledge by reading books and articles in English. Or maybe you're learning because you want to enjoy English language media, like movies, music, or TV shows. Your why will give you a sense of purpose and remind you of the bigger picture when things get tough. Take some time to reflect on your reasons for learning English and write them down. Keep this list somewhere visible so you can remind yourself of it whenever your motivation starts to fade. Reward yourself. Extrinsic motivation can play a big role in keeping you motivated. One way to incorporate this into your learning routine is by rewarding yourself when you achieve a goal. Rewards give you something to look forward to and can make the learning process more enjoyable. For example, if you reach your goal of learning 10 new words in a week, treat yourself to something you enjoy, like watching a movie in English, eating your favorite snack, or spending time with friends. Rewards don't have to be big or expensive. They should just be something that makes you feel good and reinforces your efforts. Make learning fun. If you're not having fun, it's easy to lose motivation. Language learning doesn't have to be all about textbooks and memorizing rules. There are so many fun ways to practice and stay motivated. For example, watch movies and TV shows in English that you love. Play language games or use language learning apps that make studying feel like a challenge. Listen to music or podcasts in English that interest you. Join language exchange groups where you can meet other learners and practice speaking. When you enjoy what you're doing, learning becomes something you look forward to instead of a chore. Finding ways to make the process enjoyable is key to staying motivated. Surround yourself with English. Immersion is one of the best ways to stay motivated. Surrounding yourself with English in your daily life will help you stay connected to the language and make learning feel more natural. Here are a few ideas to incorporate English into your daily routine. Change the language settings on your phone, social media, and computer to English. Listen to English language podcasts or audiobooks while commuting or doing chores. Read English. Books, articles, or websites related to topics you enjoy. Speak in English with friends, family, or online language partners. The more you expose yourself to English, the more motivated you'll feel to continue learning. Immersion helps reinforce the language and keeps you engaged with it. Track your progress. Sometimes it can feel like you're not making any progress, especially when the changes are gradual. That's why tracking your progress is so important. Keep a language learning journal where you write down your goals, achievements, and new things you've learned. You can also track how many hours you've studied or how much content you've consumed in English. Looking back at your progress will help you realize just how much you've accomplished, and it will give you the motivation to keep going. It's easy to forget how far you've come when you're focused on where you still need to go, but tracking your progress helps you appreciate your hard work. 7. Stay inspired by others. Sometimes, finding inspiration in others can help reignite your own motivation. Look for stories of successful language learners or people who have overcome challenges to master English. Watch interviews, read books, or listen to podcasts where people share their experiences of learning English. Their stories can remind you that language learning is possible, even when it feels difficult. You can also connect with other learners, whether through online forums, social media groups, or language exchanges. Connecting with others who are on the same journey can motivate you to keep going. The support and encouragement of others can make a big difference. Final thoughts. Motivation is the driving force that will keep you going throughout your language learning journey. Whether it's intrinsic motivation, your love for the language and the process, or extrinsic motivation, your desire to achieve a specific goal or reward, staying motivated is essential to success. Set clear, achievable goals. Find your personal why, reward yourself, and make learning fun. Surround yourself with English, track your progress, and seek inspiration from others. And remember, motivation isn't something that comes naturally all the time. It's something you have to nurture, maintain, and actively work on. In the next chapter, we'll talk about how to maintain motivation over the long term, even when you face setbacks. So keep going, stay inspired, and keep working toward your goals. You've got this. Chapter 8. Learning new vocabulary in context. Welcome to Chapter 8. In this chapter, we're going to dive into one of the most effective techniques for learning and retaining new vocabulary. Learning vocabulary in context. If you've ever tried to memorize a list of random words, you know how easy it is to forget them. Simply memorizing words in isolation often leads to short-term recall at best. But when you learn words within a meaningful context, something amazing happens. You not only understand their meanings, but you also remember them better. And more importantly, you learn how to use them in real-life situations. Why learning vocabulary in context is important. Before we get into the strategies for learning vocabulary in context, let's first understand why this method works so well. Learning vocabulary in context means learning new words while seeing or hearing them used in real sentences or situations. This method helps you build a deeper understanding of the words because you aren't just memorizing their definitions. Instead, you're seeing how they function in the language, which makes them more memorable and usable. Think about how you learned your first language. As a child, you didn't sit down with a list of vocabulary words and definitions. Instead, you learned words by hearing them used by the people around you, your parents, friends, teachers, and even in cartoons or books. You absorbed the meaning of the word based on how it was used in context. For example, when you heard someone say, "It's raining outside, grab your umbrella," you didn't just learn the word umbrella on its own. You learned it as something you use when it's raining. The word came with meaning, emotion, and real-world usage. This same concept applies to learning English, or any language. By learning vocabulary in context, you connect the word to a real situation, making it easier to remember and use in your own conversations. How context helps you retain vocabulary. When you encounter a new word in a sentence, you are not just learning the word's definition. You are also learning about the word's grammatical function, its relationship with other words, and its emotional or cultural significance. This type of learning is much richer and more practical than simply memorizing definitions. Let's take a look at some reasons why learning vocabulary in context is so effective. Grammatical understanding. When you learn a word in context, you start to understand how it behaves within a sentence. For example, you can see if the word is a noun, verb, adjective, etc. This will help you use it correctly when you speak or write. Improved memory. Learning a word with a context you can relate to helps your brain create stronger associations. You're not just memorizing the word, you're connecting it to a scenario or a feeling, which makes it more likely to stick in your long-term memory. Natural use. Learning words in context allows you to understand how they are used in everyday speech. You learn phrases, idioms, and collocations, words that often go together, naturally, so you'll sound more like a native speaker. Cultural understanding. Some words have meanings that are tied to the culture of the language. When you learn these words in context, you can gain deeper insights into the culture behind the language. For example, the word hygge in Danish doesn't have an exact translation in English, but learning about it in context gives you a deeper understanding of Danish culture. Ways to learn vocabulary in context. Now that we know why learning vocabulary in context is so powerful, let's look at some effective strategies you can use to incorporate this method into your language learning routine. Read books, articles, and stories. One of the best ways to learn vocabulary in context is through reading. Whether it's novels, news articles, short stories, or blogs, reading exposes you to a wide range of vocabulary used in real situations. Here are a few tips for making the most out of your reading practice. Choose texts appropriate for your level. Start with easy-to-read books or articles and gradually increase the difficulty as your vocabulary grows. Highlight or underline new words. When you come across a word you don't know, highlight it or underline it. Then, try to infer its meaning from the context of the sentence. Afterward, look it up and make a note of it. Pay attention to sentence structure and word usage. Notice how the words are used in sentences. How does the word fit into the larger meaning of the text? What other words are commonly used with it? For example, if you're reading a passage and you come across the word exhilarated, you might encounter it in a sentence like this. She felt exhilarated after finishing the race. From this, you can infer that exhilarated means something like feeling extremely happy or excited, especially after an accomplishment. 2. Watch movies, TV shows, and videos. Watching movies, TV shows, and videos in English is another fantastic way to learn vocabulary in context. This method exposes you to how native speakers use words in everyday conversations, which helps you improve both your vocabulary and your listening skills. Here are a few tips to get the most out of this. Turn on English subtitles. This allows you to see the words as they are spoken, which can help you connect the spoken and written forms of the words. Watch scenes that interest you. Choose movies, shows, or videos that align with your interests. If you like cooking, for example, watch cooking shows or food documentaries. The vocabulary related to food will naturally come up in context, and you'll be more motivated to learn it. Pause and repeat. If you come across a word or phrase you don't understand, pause the video, look up the word, and then listen to how it's used again. Repeat the sentence to practice your pronunciation. For instance, if you're watching a scene in a TV show where a character says, "I'm feeling down today," you learn that feeling down means feeling sad or depressed. You also learn how it's commonly used in conversation. use flashcards with example sentences. Flashcards are a classic tool for vocabulary learning, but instead of just writing the word and its definition, try to include example sentences on your flashcards. This way, you're not only memorizing the word, but also learning how to use it in context. For example, word, frustrated, sentence. He felt frustrated after trying to solve the math problem for an hour without success. By associating the word with a full sentence, you'll understand how the word fits into a real situation, making it easier to remember and use in your own conversations. Engage in conversations. One of the best ways to really master vocabulary in context is by using it in real conversations. Whether it's with a language exchange partner, a teacher, or friends, speaking in English allows you to practice using new words in real time. Here's how you can make the most of this. Practice actively. When you learn a new word, try to use it as soon as possible in a conversation. This helps reinforce the word and gives you a chance to see how it fits into real interactions. Ask for feedback. Don't be afraid to ask native speakers or language partners for feedback. If you use a word incorrectly, they can help you understand how it should be used in context. Learn from mistakes. Conversations are a great way to experiment with new vocabulary. Even if you make mistakes, you'll learn from them and improve over time. For instance, if you recently learned the word persistence and you're having a conversation about language learning, you might say, "I think persistence is the key to improving my English." This reinforces the word in a natural setting. Use language apps that provide context. Many language learning apps offer vocabulary lessons that include context. Apps like Duolingo, Babbel, or Memrise use sentences and phrases in context to help learners understand the practical use of words. These apps often give examples of words used in different situations, which reinforces learning. Use music to learn vocabulary. Listening to songs in English is another fun and effective way to learn vocabulary in context. Songs often use repetitive phrases, which helps reinforce new words. Lyrics also tell a story or convey emotions, making it easier to connect with the words. When listening to a song, pay attention to the lyrics and how the words are used. For example, in the song "Let It Be" by the Beatles, the word "let" is used in a specific emotional context, encouraging acceptance and relaxation. When you hear the word in this context, it's easier to understand its meaning beyond the dictionary definition. Final thoughts. Learning vocabulary in context is one of the most effective ways to build a rich, usable vocabulary in English. Instead of memorizing isolated words, focus on how words are used in real sentences and situations. Whether you're reading, watching movies, having conversations, or using language apps, context helps you understand not only the meaning of the word, but also how to use it naturally and confidently. So, as you continue on your language learning journey, remember this. Connect the words to real-life situations. The more you see, hear, and use words in context, the easier it will be to retain them and make them a part of your active vocabulary. Keep practicing, and soon you'll find yourself using new vocabulary effortlessly in your conversations. The next chapter, we'll talk about how to improve your pronunciation and speaking confidence. Keep going. You're doing amazing. Chapter 9. Real-Life Listening Practice. Welcome to Chapter 9. In this chapter, we're going to talk about one of the most crucial aspects of language learning, real-life listening practice. If you've been learning English for a while, you've probably realized that listening comprehension isn't just about hearing words. It's about truly understanding them in the context of real conversations, movies, podcasts, and more. Real-life listening practice is essential for building fluency, and it's the best way to ensure that the English you learn is practical, natural, and applicable to everyday situations. Many learners face challenges when it comes to listening in real life. Sometimes you might understand a slow and clear lesson or a simple audio clip, but when it comes to listening to a native speaker in a conversation, everything seems to go too fast, and it feels like you miss half the words. Why does this happen? And more importantly, how can we overcome this challenge? Let's dive into the strategies and tips for practicing real-life listening. The importance of real-life listening practice. Before we explore the strategies, let's take a moment to understand why real-life listening practice is so important. Language in textbooks, podcasts, or controlled lessons is often simplified and spoken more slowly than in real-world conversations. In real life, people speak quickly, use slang, have different accents, and sometimes don't pronounce words clearly. If you don't practice listening to English in real-world contexts, you may find it difficult to keep up with native speakers when you're in real situations. However, practicing real-life listening can help you develop the ability to understand different accents. People from different parts of the world speak English in various ways. Real-life listening exposes you to these accents and teaches you how to understand them. Recognize everyday vocabulary and informal language. Conversations. In real life, often use slang, phrasal verbs, and informal speech that you might not find in textbooks. Real-life practice helps you become familiar with these. Improve your reaction time in conversations. In a real conversation, you don't have the luxury of pausing and thinking about what the speaker said. Real-life practice helps you react more quickly and naturally to what you hear. Ultimately, real-life listening practice helps you bridge the gap between what you learn in the classroom and how English is used in the world outside. It allows you to develop the listening skills necessary for effective communication. How to practice listening in real life. Now that we know why it's important, let's explore some strategies and techniques you can use to practice listening in real-world contexts. The key to real-life listening practice is exposure. The more you immerse yourself in English, the better you'll get at understanding it in everyday situations. Listen to English podcasts. Podcasts are a fantastic way to practice listening to real-life conversations in English. There are podcasts for virtually every topic, from language learning to news, history, culture, and even entertainment. Listening to podcasts gives you access to natural conversations and different accents, which helps improve your listening skills. Here's how you can make the most of podcasts. Choose topics you enjoy. If you love sports, try listening to sports. Podcasts. If you're interested in technology, look for podcasts about tech. The more engaged you are with the content, the more motivated you'll be to keep listening. Start with slow-paced podcasts. If you're a beginner or intermediate learner, look for podcasts that speak slowly and clearly. Many podcasts cater to learners and speak at a slower pace, making it easier for you to follow along. Take notes. While listening, take notes on new vocabulary, phrases, or expressions that stand out. Try to write down key ideas from the episode, even if you don't catch every word. Listen to the same episode multiple times. If you find a podcast episode challenging, listen to it more than once. With each repetition, you'll catch more details, and your listening comprehension will improve. 2. Watch movies and TV shows in English. Watching movies and TV shows in English is another powerful way to practice real-life listening. The advantage of this method is that you can hear the language used in various real-life situations, such as casual conversations, debates, business meetings, or emotional exchanges. You also get to see how words are pronounced, how people use gestures, and how context influences the meaning of words. Here's how to get the most out of movies and TV shows. Use English subtitles. Turn on English subtitles to help you connect. the spoken word with the written form. This will improve your reading skills while also reinforcing your listening comprehension. If you're more advanced, you can try watching without subtitles. Choose content with real-life dialogue. To practice real-life listening, choose shows and movies that feature natural, everyday dialogue. Sitcoms, dramas, or talk shows are great for this because they contain conversations you might encounter in daily life. Focus on different accents and expressions. English is spoken in many accents, from American to British, Australian, and more. By watching movies and TV shows from different regions, you'll get used to different accents and speaking styles, which is essential for real-life listening practice. Pause and rewind. If you don't understand a phrase, pause the video, rewind, and try to catch it again. This is a great way to slow down and analyze the language in context. Engage in real-life conversations. One of the best ways to improve your listening comprehension is through actual conversations. Engaging in real-life conversations with native speakers or advanced learners exposes you to the speed, tone, and rhythm of everyday speech. Here are some tips for improving your listening in conversations. Find conversation partners. Look for language exchange partners, either in person or online, who can help you practice. Websites like Tandem, HelloTalk, or language exchange meetups in your city can connect you with English speakers. Focus on understanding the main idea. In conversations, it's not always about catching every word. Instead, focus on understanding the main points of the conversation. This will help you keep up with the flow of discussion. Ask questions. If you don't understand something, don't be afraid to ask your conversation partner to repeat or clarify. Asking questions is a natural part of communication, and it helps you learn. Use active listening. Active listening means focusing fully on the speaker, processing the information, and responding appropriately. It's a skill that you can develop with practice. By actively listening, you'll improve your ability to understand native speakers in real-life situations. 4. Listen to audiobooks. Audiobooks are another excellent resource for practicing listening. Whether you prefer fiction or nonfiction, audiobooks offer a way to listen to natural English narration while enjoying a story. Audiobooks allow you to hear a wide range of vocabulary and sentence structures, and they often feature professional narrators who speak clearly and at a moderate pace. Here's how to maximize the benefits of audiobooks. Choose books at your level. Start with easier books that match your listening skills, then gradually challenge yourself with more advanced content as you improve. Follow along with the text. If possible, read the text while listening to the audiobook. This can reinforce your understanding and help you visualize the words as you hear them. Listen on the go. Audiobooks are great for listening practice during your commute, while exercising or doing household chores. Make use of these opportunities to listen to English throughout the day. Listen to English news. Listening to the news in English is a great way to stay informed while practicing your listening skills. The news often uses formal language, which can help you improve your understanding of academic and business vocabulary. Plus, news broadcasts typically feature slow and clear speech, which makes them easier to understand. To practice with news, start with simpler news sources. Look for news podcasts or videos that are specifically designed for English learners. These sources tend to use clear, easy-to-understand language and slower speech. Listen to different types of news. Try listening to different kinds of news: local, international, weather reports, and business news. This exposes you to different vocabulary and contexts. Summarize the news. After listening to a news segment, try to summarize it in your own words. This helps you remember the key points and improves your comprehension. Use listening apps. There are several apps designed specifically for improving listening comprehension. Apps like BBC Learning English, VOA Learning English, or Elsa Speak offer audio-based lessons and real-life conversations. These apps allow you to listen to native speakers and practice understanding various accents and topics. Final thoughts on real-life listening practice. Real-life listening practice is essential for improving your ability to understand and engage with spoken English. The key is exposure. Whether it's through podcasts, movies, conversations, or audiobooks, the more you listen to real-world English, the better you'll get at understanding it. Remember that listening in real life is different from classroom listening. It's faster, more varied, and often more challenging. But with consistent practice, you'll build the skills necessary to understand English in any situation. So, make listening a daily habit. Whether it's through conversations, media, or apps, and keep challenging yourself. Over time, you'll notice that your listening skills improve, and you'll find yourself more confident in understanding and participating in English conversations. In the next chapter, we'll explore some practical tips for improving your speaking skills and building confidence in expressing yourself in English. Keep up the great work, and let's continue this journey together. Chapter 10: Overcoming Challenges and Building Confidence. Welcome to Chapter 10, By now, you've been learning English for a while, and you've made great progress. You've tackled new vocabulary, improved your listening, and even learned how to handle mistakes in your journey. But as you know, learning a language is not always smooth sailing. Along the way, you'll face challenges that might make you question your abilities or wonder if you're ever going to reach your goal. But don't worry. Today, we're going to talk about how to overcome those challenges and build the confidence you need to keep moving forward. Confidence is one of the most important factors in language learning. When you're confident, you're more likely to take risks, practice more often, and continue to improve. But confidence doesn't come automatically. It has to be built over time through consistent practice, mindset shifts, and confronting challenges head-on. In this chapter, we'll explore some common challenges language learners face, and I'll give you practical tips to overcome them and build lasting confidence in your English skills. Recognizing the challenges you'll face. Before we jump into strategies for overcoming challenges, let's first take a look at some of the most common obstacles language learners encounter. Fear of making mistakes. As we've discussed in previous chapters, one of the biggest barriers to progress is the fear of making mistakes. This fear holds many learners back from speaking, writing, or even practicing in real-life situations. It's easy to feel embarrassed or frustrated when you make errors, but remember that mistakes are an essential part of learning. The more you embrace them, the quicker you'll improve. Plateaus in progress. At some point, many learners experience a plateau, a period where it feels like they're not improving, no matter how hard they try. This is completely normal and happens to everyone, but it can be frustrating and make you question whether your efforts are paying off. The key is to understand that progress is often slow and incremental, and plateaus are just temporary. Lack of motivation. Motivation can fluctuate, and there may be times when you feel uninspired or burned out. Whether it's because you're not seeing immediate results or other life priorities take over, it's easy to lose your drive. However, staying motivated is essential for continued progress, and finding new ways to keep your enthusiasm alive is key. Overcoming self-doubt. Many learners struggle with self-doubt, questioning whether they're good enough or whether they'll ever reach fluency. This often happens when you compare yourself to others or focus too much on your weaknesses instead of your strengths. Overcoming self-doubt is crucial for building confidence and pushing through the tough moments. Fear of speaking. Speaking is often one of the most challenging aspects of language learning. Whether it's because you're afraid of making mistakes, worried about your accent, or unsure of your vocabulary, speaking anxiety can be a major obstacle. But to truly become fluent, you need to practice speaking regularly and gain confidence in expressing yourself. Overcoming challenges. Strategies for success. Now that we've identified some common challenges, let's talk about how you can overcome them and build the confidence you need to succeed. Shift your mindset about mistakes. The first step in overcoming the fear of making mistakes is to reframe your mindset. Instead of viewing mistakes as failures, see them as opportunities to learn. Each mistake is a stepping stone to improvement. The more you embrace this mindset, the less fearful you will become when you make an error. Practical tip. The next time you make a mistake, instead of feeling frustrated or embarrassed, take a moment to analyze what went wrong and how you can correct it. Celebrate the fact that you tried and learned something new. Example: if you mix up verb tenses while speaking, say to yourself, "Okay, that was a mistake, but now I know I need to practice the past tense more." Use mistakes as signals for what to focus on in your studies. And remember, everyone makes them, even native speakers. Break through plateaus by mixing up your routine. If you feel like you've hit a plateau in your learning, it's time to shake things up. When you keep doing the same thing every day, your progress can stall. The key is to keep things fresh and find new ways to challenge yourself. Practical tip. Try different learning methods, like reading a new type of content, such as novels, news articles, or academic papers, or listen to podcasts or audiobooks on different topics. You could also practice speaking in new settings, join a new conversation group, speak to different people, or even try speaking about topics you've never discussed before. Example: if you usually listen to podcasts about business, switch it up and try a podcast about sports or technology. This will expose you to different vocabulary and help you grow in areas you may not have explored yet. Reignite your motivation. When motivation starts to fade, it's essential to remind yourself why you started this journey in the first place. Revisit your goals and think about how far you've come. Set new, smaller goals to keep the momentum going. Practical tip. Set a new challenge for yourself. Learn 5 new words a day for a week. Watch an entire movie in English without subtitles, or try to have a conversation in English for 10 minutes every day. Celebrate your progress when you meet each goal, and keep your focus on the long-term benefits of learning English. Example: if you're learning English to travel, plan a future trip where you'll be able to speak English confidently. If career growth is your motivation, focus on how your language skills will open up new job opportunities. Combat self-doubt by tracking progress. Self-doubt is a common barrier for many learners. It can be easy to focus on how much you still need to improve, but this mindset can undermine your confidence. Instead, focus on the progress you've already made and celebrate your small wins. Practical tip: keep a progress journal where you write down what you've achieved each day. Whether it's learning a new phrase, understanding a podcast better, or having a successful conversation, recording these accomplishments will help you see how much you've grown. Over time, this will build your confidence and remind you that you're on the right path. Example: at the end of each week, review your journal and look at what you've learned. Notice how your vocabulary has expanded or how your ability to understand fast speech has improved. Celebrate these milestones. 5. Build speaking confidence through practice. The best way to overcome the fear of speaking is through consistent practice. The more you speak, the more confident you will become. Don't worry about being perfect. Just focus on communicating and expressing yourself. Practical tip: start speaking in English every day, even if it's just to yourself. Practice reading aloud, narrating your day, or discussing your thoughts on different topics in English. Then, seek opportunities to speak with others. Join language exchange programs, find a conversation partner, or even use language learning apps that connect you with native speakers. Example: if you're nervous about speaking, set a goal to talk to one new person each week. Whether it's through an online conversation platform or a local language group, speaking to different people will help you get more comfortable with different accents and speaking styles. Building lasting confidence. Building confidence is a gradual process that requires time, effort, and a positive attitude. Here are a few final tips to help you stay confident as you continue learning. Celebrate small wins. Confidence comes from progress, no matter how small. Take time to acknowledge your achievements, whether it's mastering a new grammar rule, understanding a movie without subtitles, or holding a 10-minute conversation. Stay patient. Learning a language is a long-term process, and there will be ups and downs. Be patient with yourself and trust that your efforts will pay off in time. Surround yourself with support. Join communities of learners, find a mentor or teacher who supports your progress, and connect with other learners who share your goals. Supportive relationships can help you stay motivated and confident. Positive self-talk. Don't let negative thoughts hold you back. Remind yourself of your strengths and the progress you've made. When you face a challenge, tell yourself, "I can do this," and keep pushing forward. Conclusion: you are capable of great things. Remember, overcoming challenges and building confidence isn't about being perfect. It's about consistency, persistence, and embracing the learning process. Every obstacle you face is an opportunity for growth, and with the right mindset and approach, you'll continue to improve. So, the next time you face a challenge, whether it's fear, doubt, or frustration, remind yourself that you're capable of overcoming it. Keep going, keep practicing, and most importantly, believe in yourself. You're on the path to fluency, and with every step, you're getting closer to achieving your language goals. In the next chapter, we'll explore advanced strategies for refining your English skills and reaching the highest level of fluency. Keep up the great work. You've got this. Chapter 11. Conclusion. Welcome to Chapter 11, the final chapter of our journey. Congratulations on making it this far, and I want to take a moment to acknowledge the dedication and hard work you've put into your language learning so far. Over the course of this book, we've covered a lot of important topics. Everything from overcoming the fear of making mistakes to learning vocabulary and context to practicing listening and building speaking confidence. But as you finish this chapter, I want to focus on something even more important: your journey moving forward and the lasting impact of everything you've learned. The journey doesn't end here. One of the most important things to realize is that learning a language is a journey, not a destination. Yes, you've made significant progress and you've acquired many new skills. But fluency is something that is built over time with consistent effort. And the journey of learning English doesn't end when you reach a certain level of proficiency. It continues as long as you keep practicing, learning, and challenging yourself. While we've covered many strategies, techniques, and tips throughout, this book, The Real Magic, comes from taking those strategies and applying them consistently in your daily life. It's about making English a part of your routine and embracing the process of continual improvement. Every day you'll encounter new challenges and new opportunities to practice, and with each step, you'll get closer to your goal of fluency. Embrace lifelong learning. As we wrap up this book, I want to remind you that language learning is a lifelong process. There's always more to learn, and that's what makes it so exciting. Even after you reach a high level of fluency, you'll find that there are always new words, phrases, cultural nuances, and ways of expressing yourself to explore. In fact, you'll probably start to enjoy this aspect of language learning even more as you continue, because the more you learn, the more you realize how much there is left to discover. Consider this. After a year of learning, you might look back and realize just how much your English has improved. But a year from now, you'll look back at today and think, wow, I know so much more now than I did back then. That's the beauty of language. It's a never-ending opportunity to grow and challenge yourself. Reflect on your progress. Now that you've reached the end of this chapter, take a moment to reflect on how far you've come. Think about where you started, and then think about all of the new skills and knowledge you've acquired. Remember the moments when you felt challenged or frustrated. Those moments were opportunities for growth. And now, look at all the new things you can do with English that you couldn't do before. Whether it's holding a simple conversation in English without feeling nervous, understanding a podcast or a movie without relying on subtitles, using new vocabulary in your daily life, or feeling more confident in your ability to express yourself, you've already made incredible progress. Celebrate those achievements. Every new word, every sentence you've spoken, and every challenge you've overcome is a testament to your dedication and growth. So, before you move forward, take a moment to appreciate where you are right now, building your own learning routine. Now, as we look ahead to your continued learning, I want to encourage you to create a personalized learning routine that works for you. As we've discussed, language learning is all about consistency and practice. Here are a few tips to help you continue your progress. Set realistic goals. It's easy to become overwhelmed if you set goals that are too big. Instead, break down your goals into smaller, achievable chunks. Whether it's learning a specific number of new words each week, practicing speaking for 10 minutes a day, or watching a movie in English each month, setting small goals will keep you motivated and focused. Stay engaged with English, whether it's through reading, watching TV shows, listening to music, or speaking with others. Make English a part of your everyday life. The more you engage with the language, the more it will become second nature. Reflect and adjust. Don't be afraid to adjust your learning routine if something isn't working. Reflect on what's working and what isn't, and make changes based on your personal needs. If you find that listening to podcasts helps you learn faster, focus more on that. If you need more speaking practice, look for conversation partners or join language groups. Flexibility in your learning routine is key to sustained progress. Celebrate your successes. Don't wait until you're fluent to celebrate your achievements. Every time you reach a small goal, take a moment to congratulate yourself. Whether it's understanding a difficult phrase, holding a conversation for longer than you expected, or learning a new grammar rule. Each achievement is a step forward. Embrace these wins. Find a support system. Learning a language can sometimes feel lonely, but it doesn't have to be. Surround yourself with people who support your language learning journey. Whether it's a teacher, language exchange partner, or online community, having people to motivate you and help you stay on track makes the process much more enjoyable. Stay motivated. In this book, we've talked about the power of motivation and how it can keep you going when you hit a roadblock. As you continue your learning journey, it's important to keep your motivation high. Here are some ways to do that. Keep your why in mind. Remind yourself of why you're learning English. Whether it's for career advancement, travel, or personal growth, your reason for learning will keep you motivated. Revisit your progress. Whenever you feel stuck, look back at how much you've learned. This will help you see how far you've come and inspire you to keep pushing forward. Mix things up. If you're getting bored with your routine, try something new. Watch a different genre of movies, try a new app, or read a book in English. Keeping things fresh and exciting will help you stay engaged. Confidence is key. Building confidence is an ongoing process, and it's a key theme we've touched on throughout this book. Confidence comes from practice, experience, and overcoming. Challenges. The more you practice speaking, listening, reading, and writing, the more confident you will become in using English in real-life situations. Remember, confidence doesn't mean being perfect. It means believing in your ability to keep going no matter what. Even if you make mistakes, even if you feel unsure at times, keep practicing and keep trusting yourself. With every word you learn and every conversation you have, your confidence will grow. The power of persistence. At the end of the day, one of the most powerful tools you have is persistence. As we discussed in Chapter 4, learning a language is about continuous effort, and it's through consistent practice that you make the most progress. If you keep pushing forward, even when things seem tough, you will continue to improve. And remember, fluency is not about being perfect. It's about being able to communicate effectively, no matter how many mistakes you make along the way. So, whether you're struggling to speak, struggling to understand, or feeling like you're stuck in a rut, remember this: persistence will always lead to progress. Every step forward, no matter how small, is a victory. Keep going, keep practicing, and never lose sight of your goals. A final word. Learning English is a lifelong journey, but you're already on the right track. The skills and strategies you've learned throughout this book will continue to serve you as you move forward. Keep challenging yourself, keep practicing, and remember that every mistake is just a stepping stone on your way to success. Thank you for taking this journey with me. I hope you feel inspired, motivated, and ready to tackle the challenges ahead. Keep your confidence high, stay persistent, and most importantly, enjoy the process. I'm excited for the progress you'll make in the future, and I know you'll achieve your language learning goals. So, go ahead, take the next step, and keep improving your English every day. You've got this. Great work today. Every moment you spend practicing brings you closer to mastering your English listening and speaking skills. Remember, progress comes with patience and consistency. If this story inspired you or helped you in your learning journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Easy English Spark channel for more lessons and stories. Keep listening, keep speaking, and keep believing in your growth. I'll see you in the next video. Take care and keep shining.